Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Real Time, where we talk about the movies we like.
And the ones we do not.
I'm Tyler,
And I'm Molly.
and before we get into our main topic of today, I will say that we are recording this episode after we got home with our new daughter, Clementine.
Yeah, so there's three of us now.
She's also in the recording living room because we don't have a studio with us, but she's just chilling now. She's vibing.
She's just chilling.
We recorded some stuff the week prior. Now, the order of getting things out, we don't know, but they will be out in due time. But you'll notice some future tense references to our daughter in that one.
Yeah. But
Just
yeah.
go with it.
Yeah, and now she's here, so that's just how it is.
So if these get released out of order, then well, that's why.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, with the new return of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, we thought it'd be fun to take a look at his solo movies in the X-Men franchise, his own Wolverine trilogy, starting with, of course, X-Men Origins Wolverine. And there's movie trilogies where maybe the first movie is not the strongest, but it's still a pretty good movie, which leads to a pretty great trilogy. Stuff like the Planet of the Apes trilogy. Rise wasn't necessarily my favorite movie in the trilogy, but it's still a fun enough and a good enough movie that it's worthy of belonging to that trilogy.
Yeah.
Or you have stuff like the Dark Knight trilogy, which other people may disagree on this, but I still quite enjoy the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. When you have a really good, strong first movie, that usually leads to something more expansive.
This is not the case here. X-Men Origins Wolverine was the absolute low point in the Wolverine trilogy, and some may say in the X-Men movies in general. I don't know if I would go that far. I say Dark Phoenix was definitely worse than this, but this does not make a good first impression for the X-Men Origins series that they were trying to go for.
Yeah. I understand what you mean, because this is I will say before I get into it, I am not very familiar with X-Men at all. I don't ever think I've sat through an entire X-Men movie, not counting Deadpool,
Yeah, the only X-Men movies I've shown you were Logan, and I'm going to count the Deadpool movies because he's still a character in that realm of the universe. I don't know if I showed you any other ones.
Yeah, it's just those. So I am very, very unfamiliar with the franchise and the characters.
But having said that, what did you think of this first one? Just general thoughts.
If I could sum it up into one word, I would say what's a word for did not capture my attention?
Dull.
Dull.
Uninteresting.
Uninteresting.
Bland. Tofu.
Tofu?
Yeah, you ever eat tofu?
I don't think so.
It's crap. It's boring. It's bland. You got to spice it up with something. Give it some soy sauce. Give it some teriyaki chicken. Give it some stir-fry vegetables. Give it something. This is that.
Yeah, that is correct.
Now, let's get into the cast, because it does have a quite good cast. Hugh Jackman returns as Wolverine. As good as always. Well, maybe not as good, because in this one he seems to be a bit more lower energy, a lot more laid back, a lot more subdued.
Yeah, it's not the Wolverine that I know from Logan.
Well, to be fair, that is also an R-rated movie, so we can't exactly compare this movie to that one. What we can compare it to is the other X-Men movies that came before it, like X-Men X2, X-Men The Last Stand, and where we get a more dynamic Wolverine. He has a lot more agency with his actions. He's a lot more of an interesting character. It feels more like Hugh Jackman cared in those movies. Here, it just seems like He's like, hey, I got my own Wolverine movie now. Cool.
Yeah. I don't have anything to compare it to yet because of, I have not seen those other movies.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to get to those ones on this channel, given the fact that Bryan Singer was so heavily involved. But yeah, those first three X-Men movies, or the first two X-Men movies, I should say, were decent enough, fun comic book movies. They weren't the most accurate, don't get me wrong, but they were fun. And X3 was also a movie that exists. It was okay. I have a bit of a soft spot for it. It's not great, but it's fun enough.
Yeah. I'll have to take your word for it.
Leo Schreiber replaces Tyler Mane as Victor Creed, or Sabretooth. In this movie universe, him and Wolverine are, they're siblings, given that they have the same dad. That's not the case in the comics, but I don't mind this change, honestly. It creates for the possibility of a pretty good sibling dynamic, which we don't get a lot of in this movie. We get bits of it here and there, but we could have gotten a lot more, I think.
Yeah. There was, they're brothers. I think I agree with you. There just wasn't a lot of, you could have, I think, built up their relationship better, so the betrayal was a lot, stronger.
Danny Houston plays the younger version of William Stryker, a character we met in X2. The age difference between him and Brian Cox, who played Stryker in X2, is around 16 years. And the timeline kind of, sort of lines up for them. Danny Houston looks nothing like Brian Cox, but whatever, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
He plays a decent enough villain for this movie. He's conniving. He's untrustworthy. He's threatening enough.
Yeah, he's things you expect from a villain, so that checks out.
Will.i.am, for some reason, is in this movie as John Wraith, a teleporter who is part of Stryker's team in the beginning, and he's fine, I guess.
Yeah, he's fine. Look, sorry, I got distracted. Our little baby's flipping us off right now.
You little turd.
Anyways, yeah, he's fine enough. He doesn't get much screen time.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a problem that we see with a lot of the characters in this movie. They just appear, do some stuff, it could be cool, and then they just peace out. Either they die or they just leave. It's hard to get attached to anyone in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. There's just, the characters aren't very compelling.
Lynn Collins plays Kayla Silverfox, Wolverine's love interest. She has the mutant ability of telling people what to do.
Yeah, if she touches them, she can persuade them to do whatever.
Kevin Durand plays Fred Dukes, also known as Blob in the comics, and he has indestructible skin from the looks of it.
Yeah.
Later on, he becomes a big fat fatty, and he resembles his comic book counterpart more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was funny that in the beginning he got a tattoo of a lady on his arm, and she's, like a skinny pinup girl. But whenever he gets big and fat, she does too. I thought that was funny.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yep.
Dominic Monaghan plays Chris Bradley, or Bolt. He has electrical powers. He can just basically power anything he wants using his mind. Decent enough power, but his character isn't really given much to do either. We just get maybe 3 or 4 lines from Mary, and then he just gets killed by Sabretooth. It kind of sucks.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. It sucks.
Taylor Kish plays fan favorite character Remy LeBeau, or Gambit. He has a mutant ability of basically he can blow up anything he throws.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool character. But you wouldn't get that from Kish's performance here, because one, he doesn't really sound Cajun at all.
No, I would not think he was supposed to be Cajun.
And two, he barely shows up. He's there for 3 scenes, and he's not really interesting in any of them. He has some charm here and there, but it doesn't really seem like he's at all compelling.
Yeah, I feel like he would be a really cool character in like a different, like maybe in the Deadpool movies now. I think that'd be cool.
Well, Channing Tatum was supposed to play him in a solo movie of his own.
Yeah, I'm not a Channing Tatum fan, but
But as you can see from the lack of Channing Tatum Gambit movie, that didn't happen.
I could tell. Yeah.
Now, Taylor Kitsch is Canadian, so maybe he had a bit of trouble doing the Louisiana accent. I didn't do it well either, but
No.
you know what? That's fine.
It's okay. You're not an actor, so.
Channing Tatum is from Alabama, so it's considerably closer to Louisiana, so I feel like he could have done the accent fine.
Probably. He probably could have.
But we're probably never going to see Channing Tatum as Gambit, which is a bit of a shame. I was looking forward to that. I thought it could be fun.
It could have been really fun, yeah.
Channing Tatum, as we've seen from the 21 Jump Street movies, is a funny actor, and he has the physicality to pull it off, so I guess we'll never know.
No, we'll never know.
Daniel Henney plays Agent Zero and a right-hand man of Stryker, and he's pretty one-note, too. He has a cool action scene near the beginning where he takes out a whole bunch of guards, but nothing much to his character except the fact that he's kind of a douche.
Yeah, not like I said earlier, just not a lot of compelling characters.
Ryan Reynolds is in this movie as Wade Wilson, and only as Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
You've heard it from a million other YouTubers, and you're going to hear it from a million more, and I'm going to be one of them. Deadpool was treated horribly in this movie. We will get to that in its own segment, because believe me, it deserves a segment of its own. But as it is with what we got from Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson, he did fine.
Yeah. I could see. I mean, I don't know much about Deadpool besides the movies, but if that Deadpool is the most accurate one, then yeah, this Deadpool character is
Yes.
yeah, it's completely different. Excuse me.
Now, I say he only played Wade Wilson because, honestly, Ryan Reynolds did not play the Weapon 11 version of Deadpool later on. That was by stunt actor Scott Adkins.
Okay.
And that's most of the main cast. I mean, we also have Troye Sivan playing a younger version of Wolverine in the beginning, but he doesn't really do much other than kill his dad.
Yeah, not a lot.
Okay, so safe to say neither of us like this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't really stay focused on it. You can make the excuse that I probably was holding a baby, but still,
I was also holding the baby sometimes too.
Yeah, but still, it's like I think it just wasn't interesting.
Yeah, and this is the perspective of someone who's not really into the comics either.
Yeah, you're not into the comics.
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh yeah, because I'm like I haven't even seen any of the movies. So
now you take someone who is familiar with the comics like me and the movies, and yeah, this movie kind of pisses me off. But like, we've also had worse since, so it's like maybe don't be too mad about it. But still, this could have been done a lot better. And I think one of the main issues was the rating of this movie. They made this a PG-13 movie about the origin story of one of the most violent characters in all of Marvel Comics, Wolverine. You know, his backstory is drenched in blood and tragedy. To just boil it down to this PG-13 love story where we hardly see any blood at all, and the blood we do see is basically fake. It doesn't fit what we're expecting.
yeah, I guess you can make the argument that probably around this time, I would say all like the superhero quote movies were PG-13.
For the most part, yeah. And this was just after the MCU kicked off. The previous year we got Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk. This was 2009, so comic book adaptations, movies, universes, whatever, they weren't really as they weren't really as taken as seriously as they are now. Then it's just like, oh, we got this adaptation of a comic, just do something or another, let general audiences have their fun, but still, I don't really think that excuses it, because we've seen other comic book movies that were both R-rated and faithful to the universe. Okay, not at the same time necessarily, but still, by that time we've had some things. Back in '97, we had the original Blade. It was R-rated. It was a huge success. Why? It was good.
Yeah. Did I see that?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I just don't remember.
And then we have more faithful adaptations, like... Give me a minute.
I'm sure you can think of one. I can't really help out.
I have to go back a bit further for this, but Superman the movie. It was faithful to the spirit of the comics, and it didn't need to be a dark, gritty adaptation, because that's not what they were going for. That's not what the comics were at the time. It's not a question of whether an R rating would make a movie better all its own. It's whether it would make it better given the character and the story and the tone you're doing. I think this movie needed that R rating.
Yeah, it probably would have helped.
Now, the next movie in this trilogy, The Wolverine, has an unrated cut, but I don't think its PG-13 hurt it, because this isn't necessarily a chapter of Wolverine's story that needs to be the whole blood and guts. That's not necessary all the time. But something like Logan needed that R rating, because that is the story they're trying to do. This is the tone that is needed for this chapter of the story. Just like how it would have been needed for the origin. This is how this character came to be. We first see this character when he's a little boy. What he thinks is his father gets killed, and then he kills a man who thinks he killed his father, only to find out that that man is his actual father. This is how it was in the comics too.
Yeah, a little confusing there.
Basically, Logan's mom had an affair with the groundskeeper, Thomas Logan. It's pretty straightforward.
I was confused when I first saw it.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to watch this movie very much.
Probably.
Anyways, before we get into other stuff that I don't like, let's talk about some things that I do like. The opening montage is actually pretty fun. We see Logan and Victor going through all the major wars, from the Civil War to Vietnam. Just a fun passage of time. We see them fight together, and you can tell that there is a bond between them. And we get to see how war is taking its toll on Victor. It's actually a pretty interesting montage. I would have liked a whole Wolverine movie just based off of this montage alone.
Yeah, before we started this movie, or like whenever this was happening, you were like, this is going to be the best scene in the movie. And I was like, okay, yeah. And you were right.
Yeah, I believe I said that the movie peaks here, and it did.
Yeah, you're right.
The movie is short. It's not even an hour and 50 minutes long. And to be honest, it kind of goes by pretty quickly for the most part. You got some slow scenes here and there, but for the most part, it doesn't feel long.
No, probably not.
Now, that's both good and bad for this movie. Good in that we get this bad experience over quickly, but bad in that this is the origin story of a pretty long-lived character. So I feel like a longer movie could have helped. But then again, if it's a longer movie like this, then I'm fine with a shorter one.
Yeah. This one was, I'm glad it was short-ish.
We also had some pretty decent action in this movie. Stuff like Wolverine versus Agent Zero with the helicopter, motorcycle, and Humvee fight. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
And then you have stuff like Wolverine and Sabretooth fighting. That was fun enough.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
And for as bad as Deadpool was treated in this movie, the fight between, well, Weapon 11 and Wolverine was fun enough.
I agree.
Like, none of the fights are horrible, per se. They're, at bare minimum, they do the bare minimum, which is pretty much most of them.
Yeah, they are fight scenes and they are actiony, but it's just there's like something missing.
Yeah, that's something missing. I think is a lot of blood.
You think so?
Yeah.
You might be right.
Anyways, so we've talked about some of these undercooked characters, and I feel like some of the main offenders of this were Wraith, Blob, Bolt, and Gambit. Like we've touched on them a bit, but they don't really do much in this movie outside of their really the thing they were there for, which I guess is the bare minimum. But I want more than that. I want characters that I miss when they're gone. Two of these characters we see get killed on screen more or less, and I feel nothing. Okay, I don't really feel anything for these people.
I don't either, because the movie does not make me care about them.
No, it does not. Mm-hmm. And Gambit gets very little to do. We've already touched on him. Then there's another thing. In the opening third or so, Logan's girlfriend Kayla fakes her own death because she's part of this whole grand conspiracy, which I think is kind of funny how later on Stryker says that he swears on his own son that he had no idea that Victor would be there, which is funny when you consider that he doesn't care about his own son at all.
Yeah, he was like frozen or something. I did not catch why.
They don't really explain it too much in this one. They explain it in X2, but don't worry about it.
All right, I won't.
Anyways, so the whole thing about her faking her death is that she takes this thing where it slows her heartbeat down to, really slow, and then Victor splashes some fake blood on her, or maybe it's real blood from someone else. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. She has no visible stab wounds, and Wolverine has super enhanced senses in addition to all of his other mutant abilities, so he would have definitely been able to tell that she was still alive. So this seems really contrived.
Yeah, I guess you can make the argument that his emotions took over when he sees his girlfriend lying there with blood all over her. But if he has, like good senses, well, her heart rate did slow down, but you think he could still like sense the blood run through her veins?
I don't know, man. This is maybe you're right. Maybe his emotions did take over, but it's still pretty ridiculous. Though in the comics, Sabretooth, though they weren't siblings, still had a pretty long-standing relationship with Wolverine. Like every year he would do something to mess with him. Like, for instance, he would kill a whole bunch of his love interests, one after the other.
All right.
Yeah, their relationship is similar to like Batman and the Joker or Superman and Lex Luthor. Just these two characters going at each other, but a lot more visceral because, well, they have, and they will beat, chop, slice, and hit the hell out of each other, and they can come back from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, the CGI in this movie was not up to snuff. Before this movie came out, it was leaked on the internet with unfinished VFX. They were still not great when the movie actually came out.
No. When was the year again?
2009.
Yeah, for 2009, I would expect better.
We did get better 9 years previously in the first X-Men movie.
Oh. I wouldn't know.
Which, yeah, I said that how Liev Schreiber was a replacement for Tyler Mane. Yeah, honestly, it's a weird thing with these two actors. On the one hand, Tyler Mane looked more like comic book Sabretooth, but Liev Schreiber acted more like comic book Sabretooth. But as we're seeing from trailers for Deadpool and Wolverine, Tyler Mane is being brought back instead of Leah Schreiber. Although I guess Schreiber could be brought back too.
I don't know.
We'll see.
We will see.
Now, Deadpool. Yeah, no, this is awful. Okay, this is probably one of the worst treatments any comic book character has ever gotten. Seriously. And I'm counting what they did with Joker and Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I will. I'll take your word for it. Because, well, I mean, obviously I know. I've seen the Deadpool movies, so yeah, this guy could be a completely different character.
What stands out to Deadpool about you in those movies? Let's just go based off of the movies.
The Deadpool movies?
Yeah.
His attitude and costume.
His attitude, his personality, his voice.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, yeah.
What was something missing from this Deadpool?
His witty quips.
His mouth.
Yeah.
In the comics, Deadpool is known as the Merc with a mouth. Where's the mouth?
Yeah, if that's the character's nickname, why get rid of the character's mouth?
Well, there was a studio exec at Fox at the time who didn't get Deadpool, apparently. So he made them do all sorts of changes to fit what he thought Deadpool should be.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't even want to let Ryan Reynolds make his own Deadpool movie. So someone, probably Ryan Reynolds, had to leak a CGI test footage trailer in order to get the public on his side so that they could make a Deadpool movie.
Yeah, I would say if I was familiar with the character, I would be very upset if that's what he turned out to be.
First of all, he has like katanas in his arm, like Wolverine has claws. I don't dislike the idea per se, but like it's still weird. Just give him his swords. He has them in the opening of the movie.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. I don't know what happened there.
And then I'm not going to quibble this part because it's whatever, but he's not exactly ugly looking. In the comics, he's, depending on the artist really, Deadpool either looks like absolutely butt ugly or just like a guy with a skin condition. So it's whatever. And then he has laser eyes, which he gets them, and as he gets them, the red diamonds around his eyes turn black. So it's like, yeah, we know you're expecting Deadpool. So here's the black around his eyes, so we can see, so you know it's him. And that's literally kind of what they said in the behind the scenes featurette on the Blu-ray. It's why would you do that?
Yeah, I think that's funny. I like as if it would appease the people who.
It did not.
Yeah, it definitely did not.
And then he has this teleportation ability, which I don't mind this one actually. He has a teleportation device in the comics, so this isn't out of the ordinary. It just makes it an extra thing for him.
Okay, yeah.
So that's whatever. That's fine.
Sure, yeah.
Which in the comics, Deadpool isn't really even a mutant. He's just a guy who gets his healing factor after he gets injected with some of Wolverine's cells, and it combines with his cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I knew he had cancer.
Yeah. Okay, look. I'm not saying anything new that any other YouTuber hasn't said. I'm just saying it in my own way. So let's move on to something a bit more palatable if you want.
Sure.
Never mind, we're going back to Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds took this part because he wanted to play Deadpool. You know, he first learned about the character after, in the comics, Deadpool said that under the mask he looked like Ryan Reynolds mixed with a Shar-Pei.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that was kind of funny, so he said, "Yeah, I want to be that guy."
Yeah, pretty cool.
And he was pretty pissed off with his character treatment too, so he made sure to get it right when they did the real Deadpool movie.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty obvious which movie is, better received.
Yeah. So Liev Schreiber was originally considered for the role of William Stryker, actually, but he wanted to take the role of Victor Creed as he he just thought the role was that one was more interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, also another thing about this being a prequel, certain characters are definitely going to live. You know that Wolverine's going to make it to the end of the movie, so will Sabretooth and Stryker. But you also know that Wolverine is going to lose his memory because as we saw in the first X-Men movie, he doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't know what happened past a certain point. So, it's fine enough to see how he lost it in this one. He gets shot with a couple of adamantium bullets in the head. That works fine enough, I think.
Yeah. Hey, I'm fine with it.
Okay, so not just Ryan Reynolds was upset at this at this movie. Hugh Jackman also regretted this movie. He thought it fell short of his expectations. So afterwards, he and the rest of the crew wanted to do a lot better with the Wolverine and Logan, which they did a lot better with those movies than this one.
Yeah, definitely.
The director of this movie, Gavin Hood, has a lot of regrets, given that executive meddling essentially castrated what they wanted to do with this movie, and they took control from his hands. One thing in particular, he had the set painted a certain way, and that certain Fox executive who didn't like Deadpool had it repainted without Hood's consent.
Dang, that's harsh.
Yeah. Deadpool is also one of his criticisms for this movie too, especially because that character is tailor-made for an R rating. Like, if you thought that Wolverine needed an R rating, Deadpool definitely needs an R rating. Like, Wolverine functioned fine enough in the PG-13 realms of the other X-Men movies and in his second solo outing, but he needs an R rating at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it.
The studio itself, 20th Century Fox, was perfectly fine with all of the shots the Deadpool movies took at this one because, well, they knew they made a mistake.
Yeah.
Liev Schreiber was also dissatisfied with how Deadpool was depicted in this movie. He called it antithetical to how the character was supposed to be portrayed, especially when compared with Ryan Reynolds' later work with the character. Although he did enjoy working on the movie overall and wants to play Sabretooth again if asked. So that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, if things are done better, this could, they could create a good movie.
And of all the faults, Liev Schreiber is not one of them. He does his job fine enough, and I'd be fine with him coming back as Sabretooth.
Yeah, me too.
One of the creators of Deadpool, Rob Liefeld, went to see this movie with Jim Lee, another comic book artist. Jim Lee also created the character of Gambit, and they were both unhappy with how the movie handled their characters.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
But at least Gambit was... He was a lot more accurate to the source than Deadpool was. At least Gambit had some... I said he wasn't really interesting, but he had a bit of personality and charisma to him, more so than Barakapool ever did, at least.
Yep. Sorry, I just got pooped on.
It's okay. I'll go through the next part a little faster.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Apparently, Jackman and Schreiber did about 95% of their own stunts, so that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Will.i.am, Ryan Reynolds, and Kevin Durant were fans of the X-Men franchise, so they were happy to be in this, as was Daniel Henney. There's supposed to be more spin-offs of X-Men Origins movies. Like, there's going to be X-Men Origins Magneto, X-Men Origins Deadpool, X-Men Origins Gambit. None of those really got made, with the exception of possibly X-Men Origins Magneto, if that's how you want to look at X-Men First Class, as it was a lot more of a Magneto movie than it was any other character. He was the lead in that one.
I did not see that.
Well, in that one, we get to see him in the concentration camp, getting experimented on, and his hunt for Nazis.
Okay.
So there were other possible castings. Michael C. Hall of Dexter was considered for the role of William Stryker. Brian Cox also expressed an interest in doing the role again, using the same de-aging tech that was used in X-Men: The Last Stand. But as we saw from this movie with how they did Patrick Stewart and The Last Stand with how they did Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, probably the best that they went in a different direction.
Probably.
Gerard Butler and Carl Urban were considered for the role of Victor Creed before Schreiber was cast, which is kind of funny given that Carl Urban these days is, he's being wanted on the internet for the role of Wolverine.
That is kind of funny.
Michelle Monaghan was offered the role of Kayla Silverfox before Lynn Collins was cast, although Monaghan turned it down due to scheduling conflicts. Alden Ehrenreich, Scott Porter, and Chris Hemsworth screen tested for the role of Remy LeBeau before Taylor Kitsch was cast.
Nice. Interesting.
David Harbour auditioned for the role of Blob before Kevin Durant was cast, but lost out due to being too fat for the scenes meant to take place before the character put on weight.
Oh, dang.
It's funny that a lot of these actors that tried out or were considered would go on to play Marvel characters in their own right.
Yeah.
Speaking of right, Edgar Wright was approached for the role of Chris Bradley before Dominic Monaghan was cast.
Oh, I didn't know he did any acting.
Here and there. That's why he turned it down, actually, because he didn't think he was a good enough actor.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which the character isn't in too much, so I feel like he could have done it well enough.
Yeah, probably.
So the Kayla's sister Emma. So before I talk about this character, I'm going to tell you about another character named Emma from the X-Men franchise, Emma Frost. She is a telepath who uses seduction in order to get her way, and along with her telepathy, in order to push her own agenda. And she can turn her skin diamond hard, like literally into diamonds.
Pretty cool.
In this movie, we have a character named Emma who has diamond hard skin as an ability. Nothing yet on telepathy, but whatever. Supposedly, they're not the same character, even though they're both named Emma and they have diamond hard skin. Seems a bit weird to put that in there if they're not going to be the same character, I think.
Yeah, that seems odd.
But look, enough about this movie. We have talked to death about it, as you can see from just how long this portion of the video is, but we're going to wrap it up. This is not a good movie. It's not a good X-Men movie. It's not a good Wolverine movie. Would you agree?
Yeah, I did not enjoy my time watching it.
Yeah, no. Thankfully, it all goes up from here. It's not like the Jaws sequels. It gets better.
All right. So next movie should be good, I hope.
Next we have The Wolverine. Stay tuned.
All right. Let's go.
Like we said at the end of the previous segment on X-Men Origins Wolverine, 2013's The Wolverine is a tremendous step up from its predecessor.
Oh, yeah. It was much better.
You know, it's a lot more of an interesting story. We have, well, I'd say more interesting stakes as well.
Yeah, I think so.
And we have actual likable characters.
Yeah, which is very refreshing because since watching the last movie, it's good to have characters you can actually enjoy and root for.
I'll say this. In the first around 10 minutes or so, we meet this grizzly bear that Logan is, he's kind of friends with this bear. You know, we get a sense of an understanding between him and the bear. And this bear only shows up for like 2 scenes, and he's dying in one of them, which forces Logan to put him out of its misery. And in those 2 scenes, I cared more about this bear than I did for pretty much every character in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, I really liked the bear. It was very sad.
But let's get to the synopsis. In this movie, we see Logan after the events of X-Men: The Last Stand, where Charles Xavier, Cyclops, and Jean Grey have all been killed in one way or another. And Logan has since taken this opportunity to isolate himself from everyone else. Partially because he was responsible for Jean Grey's dying the second time.
Yeah, I think if I would have seen that movie first, I could, understand.
It's okay. You pick up quickly. So more or less, just to recap, Jean Grey had died at the end of X2 to save everyone from this flood. She later comes back in the beginning of X-Men The Last Stand, but she's being possessed by this cosmic alien force known as the Phoenix. This turns her into, well, Phoenix. It's kind of self-explanatory, very simple. They don't waste too much time with the nuances of names. You know, what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
And one thing leads to another, and Logan has to kill Jean in order to stop the Phoenix at the end of X-Men The Last Stand.
Okay, I follow.
So he feels guilt for having to do this since he had loved her since the first X-Men movie.
Yeah, okay, I get you.
Anyways, now that you're on track, let's talk about our cast. In the role of Wolverine, or Logan, we have, of course, Hugh Jackman. This might be one of my favorite performances from Hugh Jackman as Logan. I feel like he has a lot more personal stake in this issue, given that he's kind of responsible for the main villain of this movie being able to do what he does.
Yeah.
During the waning days of the Second World War, Logan was being held prisoner of war in a prison camp in Nagasaki, Japan. You see where this is going. When the atom bomb goes off, he saves one of his captors, who was shown to be a pretty decent gentleman, all things considered. He was trying to free other prisoners when they heard the air raid sirens go off, and was even willing to help Logan get out of his pit. So it shows that at one point this man had a decent nature about him.
Yeah, I think Logan says at one point he was a really nice guy, and he knew that, you know, this guy's not so bad. He's just kind of forced to be in this situation.
Yeah. So Logan saves him from the atom bomb that goes off in Nagasaki, which makes this man, Yashida, played by Hao Yamanouchi, he wants to live forever like Logan, since he's grown old since the Second World War, and he hasn't completed everything he wants to do.
Yep.
Makes for a compelling enough villain. He's not exactly Heath Ledger's Joker or anything, but he's fine enough.
Yeah, you're especially since he started out so nice. It's kind of like, okay, there's a good little twist there.
Now, throughout this movie, Logan is also taking care of Yashida's daughter, Mariko, played by Tao Okamoto. In the comics, these two, Logan and Mariko, were love interests before Mariko is assassinated.
Oh.
Her best friend and Logan's bodyguard throughout the movie, Yukio, played by Rila Fukushima, is also a pretty interesting character in her own right. She has the mutant ability to see when other people die. It's not really too great an ability, but it's something, I guess.
Yeah, well, her fighting moves make up for her.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's very capable and very good on her feet. She's a really capable fighter. Yeah,
she can take on anyone, basically.
Hiroyuki Sanada plays Shinjin, Mariko's father. Now, Hiroyuki Sanada has, he's had a bit of a renaissance in recent years due to his roles in Avengers Endgame, Mortal Kombat, John Wick Chapter 4, and last year's FX miniseries Shogun. And it's kind of funny to see him in Avengers Endgame, given how in that movie he gets impaled by a Marvel character while fighting them in a samurai sword fight in the rain. Now, what happens in this movie? Same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
If I had a nickel for every time that happened to this guy, I'd have 2 nickels. Not a lot.
Not a lot.
It's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah, very, very weird.
Svetlana Kochenkova, I probably butchered that a little bit, but it's okay. We're going to keep going. Plays Viper, a sort of right-hand woman of Yashida. She's, I'm not going to lie, she's not too interesting, but she proves the time-honored trait that you can't trust white women.
I guess not. But yeah, I think she could have been a little bit more compelling, a little bit more interesting, but overall not bad.
Yeah, still more interesting than half the characters in Origins, I think. So there's that. Brian T plays Noburo, the fiance of Mariko. Now, fun fact: I've actually met Brian T at a convention years ago.
Oh, which convention?
It was Heroes and Villains in Chicago. It's not a thing anymore, but my sister Kate and I met him, and pretty cool guy actually. He's very 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 friendly.
Oh, that's nice. Sounds fun.
Finally, for our last couple of players, we have Will Yun Lee, who plays Harada, the former flame of Mariko, who in the comics is actually her half-brother. He is actually the son of Hiroyuki Sanada's character Shinjin in the comics. And also in the comics, he becomes the Silver Samurai, a rival to Wolverine. Here, it goes a little differently. Just spoilers, because why not? We probably already had some spoilers, but it's fine. Yashida is actually the Silver Samurai. He has this cool mech suit, and he wants to cut off Wolverine's claws to get in at the bone marrow that's inside them, so he can get to his his healing factor. How he knew to do that, I don't know, but just go with it. Just comics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a comic book movie, so you can just suspend belief.
And lastly, we have Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, or Logan's hallucinations of her that he sees given his guilt over her death at his hands, literally.
Yeah, she shows up every once in a while.
Okay, so the Wolverine. This was okay. Honestly, I don't have as much to say about this one as I do about Origins or Logan, but I'd like to say that it's a perfectly fine, if not, definitely not flawless, but it's a perfectly fine comic book movie that is good for a few hours of time.
Yeah, I agree. It's fine. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't watch it again, but also that's just my personal feelings. But yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any really too deep messages that go into this movie. Like, I don't think. Well, I think that what you see is what you get with this. Okay, we have this man trying to prolong his life, and we have another man who is trying to tell him, "No, be careful what you wish for," because this has been sort of a curse for him his whole life. Now, granted, he can't remember a lot of it given the events of X-Men Origins, where he got 2 adamantium bullets in the head, so that's not very helpful for him. But still, he knows enough to tell him, "Hey, this isn't the cure-all you think it is."
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little bit deep.
I guess, you gotta, yeah. It kind of gets into a deep message, maybe.
Yeah, basically that life is, well, it's valuable because it's short. There's really no use in trying to prolong it by any unnatural means. Just when it's your time, it's your time, I guess. That could be what the movie's trying to say.
Yeah, or you gotta, live with the cards you're dealt with. I don't know.
Basically, and Yashida didn't have a bad life after Logan saved him either. He became one of the most richest and most powerful men in Japan. He has a wonderful granddaughter, and now she's leading the company. Now that he's, revealed to be evil and dies, and she's perfectly capable in her own right. So his legacy continues in a fine enough way.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have it bad at all. Things were definitely going up for him after, the whole World War II thing.
Yeah, although I'm not sure how his plan was going to work if he wanted to reclaim his title as leader of his company after stealing Logan's immortality and becoming younger. This young guy who claims to be Yashida all of a sudden shows up and is like, "Hey, I'm him." Unless he was going to say like he's Yashida's long-lost grandson or something coming in to take the reins, but I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Like, yeah, no one would believe this guy. Plus, his granddaughter was written into the will, right?
Yeah, she was supposed to take over, which leads to another thing. Like, okay, so he's willing to leave her in charge so that she could take on all the outstanding debt he's acquired because building supervillain layers and stockpiling enough adamantium to make a mech suit big enough to take on Wolverine, that's going to bankrupt your company. You're definitely going to be in the red. So what's his plan here? Pick up the pieces of what has fallen after all that and restructure it. I mean, I guess it could work, but that's going to take a lot of legal legwork and all that. But I guess he has time if he's immortal.
Yeah, if you're immortal, you got time.
Still feels really convoluted and all that. Like, seriously, it's kind of strange, I think. And maybe it would have worked, maybe not. I'm just saying, that's weird, man.
Yeah, maybe we're looking too much into it.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Anyways, let's go into some trivia about this movie, if that's all right with you.
Sure, tell me some trivia.
So, I'm going to recheck this real quick because I want to not be speaking out my butthole again.
Mm-hmm. Don't like it when you do that.
No, that's not nice.
No.
But two of the actors in this movie, specifically Tao Okamoto and... Never mind. No, I was right the first time. Tao Okamoto and Rila Fukushima would later go on to play characters in DC properties. Tao Okamoto would play Mercy Graves in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. She's Lex Luthor's right-hand woman and bodyguard in some incarnations. And Rila Fukushima would play Tatsu Yamashiro, or Katana, on CW's Arrow. Unfortunately, she didn't get to play her for very long, given the DC EU Suicide Squad movie, which featured Karen Fukuhara as Katana. Warner Brothers had this thing where they didn't want two different incarnations of characters going on two different screens. It's kind of silly.
Yeah. Okay.
They thought audiences would get confusing. It's why also on season 3 of Arrow, their version of Deadshot was killed off to make room for Will Smith's Deadshot in the movie, even though Will Smith would only play Deadshot for just the one movie. So it's kind of a waste, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know.
Same thing happened with Arrow's version of Amanda Waller to make room for Viola Davis's Amanda Waller. Although in this case, Viola Davis played her quite a bit more than Will Smith. So it's still stupid, but at least they didn't waste her.
Yeah, because obviously audiences are going to understand that this is two different versions.
You would think. And I would think too. But apparently Warner Brothers thinks we're all dumb as hell.
Guess so.
Watch, they're going to copyright our next video we do for of one of their properties. Just watch it.
Maybe.
So, Tao Okamoto agreed to star in this movie because her agent told her that she would be starring opposite Hugh Jackman, and she had a big crush on him since she saw him in the first X-Men when she was a teenager. So, that's nice for her.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Okay. Okay, one thing that I do like about this movie over X-Men Origins, and this is a big thing, I brought it up in that one, is this movie is quite a bit more violent than Origins was.
Yeah, quite a bit. There's actually some blood.
Now, granted, we were watching the unrated version, but I've seen comparisons between this version and the theatrical version. The theatrical version still has a decent amount of blood, too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so maybe not too different.
Yeah, and now, granted, there are some other differences besides just more blood. There is quite a few more F-bombs in this version, as well as some added scenes. So this is also an extended edition.
Very interesting.
And I say this is an unrated version, but it was actually rated R. So I guess, yeah.
Makes sense then with all the F-bombs and the...
3 of them.
3 of them. Whew. And some violence, yeah.
But even still, the fact that we're able to have this version is good enough for me. If you want the PG-13 version of this movie, I'm not sure why you would, but you have that option. And if you want the R-rated version, you have that option too. That's what I like. The avenue of choice. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. You can decide. Do I want my kids to watch this and, not teach them a bad word or not?
Now, there were some other castings who were in the wings for this.
Who? I'm curious.
Well, Katie Leung, best known as Cho Chang in the Harry Potter movies, and Jessica Henwick were considered for the role of Yukio before Rila Fukushima was cast. Henwick would later play Colleen Wing in the MCU on shows like Iron Fist and The Defenders.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, on the character of Yukio, there was another character named Yukio who was used in the Deadpool movies, who is, to my understanding, they are two different characters.
They seem pretty different.
Yeah. Jessica Biel was approached for the role of Viper before Svetlana Kochenkova was cast, but she didn't get it.
I could tell. She was not in it. Yeah.
No, she wasn't.
Nice.
Darren Aronofsky was originally set to direct the movie before James Mangold was hired. However, the reason why Aronofsky dropped out of the project was because the long overseas shoot would prevent him from seeing his family. So that's nice.
Yeah, you gotta see your family.
Although I would like to see a Darren Aronofsky Wolverine movie. I feel like that'd be freaky as hell.
Yeah. Name some other things he's done.
Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain, The Wrestler, Black Swan, Noah, Mother, The Whale.
Yeah. Okay, I do know that guy.
And this wouldn't even been the only comic book movie he was attached to. He was attached to something that would have become Batman Begins and a RoboCop movie that died in development hell.
Dang.
And of course, The Fountain is an adaptation of a Vertigo story. So, but no one reads Vertigo.
I have no idea.
Well, they've shut down, so yeah, no one reads them anymore.
Oh, then that makes sense.
James Mangold, of course, would go on to direct 2017's Logan, which provided an adequate end for our prickly anti-hero. And Mangold has recently done the latest Indiana Jones movie, and according to James Gunn, he is set to direct a Swamp Thing movie for DC.
Oh, Swamp Thing. Pretty cool.
Other directors who were in contention were Guillermo del Toro, which could have been nice.
Yeah, he always has something cool.
Other directors such as Justin Lin, Doug Liman, Gavin O'Connor, Antoine Fuqua, Mark Romanek, Jose Padilla, and Gary Shore were also considered before Mangold was hired.
I don't know.
You know some of those names?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know all of those names.
That's okay. Simon Beaufoy was approached to write, but he declined due to his reluctance to commit to the film's production schedule. The movie was originally positioned as a sequel to X-Men Origins, but thanks to the poor reception and the fact that there was just a lot of things that don't work with the continuity following it, it was tied back to the continuity established by The Last Stand, which, I mean, when you think about it, things kind of don't make sense given how Logan is seen as a prisoner of war by the Japanese at the end of World War II, when he had previously been seen working with Victor in the European theater storming D-Day at Normandy.
Oh.
Now, granted, you could make the argument that maybe him and Victor weren't really traditional soldiers per se. They were just mercs who went wherever the fighting was, and they decided to go to the Pacific Theater. Sure, I could deal with. I could vibe with that. So it still makes sense. Or they're just saying we don't care about the origins, so we're just gonna ignore that.
Yeah, dude, I don't know.
You know, either one's fine with me. And it is accurate to the comics that Wolverine did spend time in Japan learning Bushido and samurai ways.
Very cool.
According to co-writer Mark Bomback, Rogue was going to appear but was written out. This could have been interesting given how Wolverine and Rogue had an established relationship with the previous 3 X-Men movies, but we would see less and less of Rogue as the movies went on. So I feel like if she had appeared in this movie, it wouldn't have been for very long.
Yeah, probably not.
Early drafts would have had Wolverine as the only mutant character. I mean, granted, the only other mutant character that has any sort of bearing on the plot is Viper. So this isn't too. This wouldn't have been a too drastic of a plot change.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it then.
Granted, Yukio does have has her prediction of him dying on his back with blood everywhere in his heart and his hand, which would pay off in Logan in a kind of a roundabout way, kind of metaphorical heart in his own heart in his own hand, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, very metaphorical.
Which James Mangold has confirmed that that's what they were going for with Logan's death in that movie. So it all, it's like poetry. Sometimes it rhymes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
An alternate ending to the movie saw Logan receiving his comic accurate yellow and black Wolverine costume, complete with the trademark mask from Yukio.
Oh, that's nice. That would be cool.
Yeah, but now that Deadpool and Wolverine is coming, we finally get to see Logan in his comic accurate suit, which, from what I've read, was one of the things that Kevin Feige required from Hugh Jackman before he allowed him to step into the role again, which Jackman was completely fine with.
Yeah, so he's like, you're gonna wear this suit, or you're not gonna be in it.
Looks like I'm wearing the suit then, bub.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
So yeah, this was a pretty fun movie. Not my favorite in the X-Men franchise or in the Wolverine trilogy, but it's not bad. So who was your favorite character? Let's say besides Logan.
Okay, besides Logan, probably Yukio.
Yeah, I'd say so too. She has a nice backstory with her being taken in by the Yashidas when she was an orphan living on the street. And she has some pretty fun moments with Logan.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, she's pretty cool.
Yeah, she is. We're all about them cool chicks on this channel.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's all we have to say about the Wolverine. It's what you see is what you get. And it's definitely worth your time, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Next time, we're covering a movie that we've covered previously, but we're going to do differently this time. Logan.
All right, let's go.
What was previously Hugh Jackman's final outing as Wolverine, it's still his best in my opinion, but maybe Deadpool and Wolverine will change that.
We'll see.
We will. So, what was once Hugh Jackman's swan song as the character of Wolverine is no longer so. But in a sense, I feel like this was still unfortunately, natural end to his character in this world.
Yeah, it was a sad ending, but it also was kind of nice because he retired his character, or so we thought, with dignity, and it was a good ending, a bittersweet ending.
Yes, and well, spoiler alert if that wasn't clear the whole video that we were going to be getting into those, but Wolverine's end in this movie is still more dignified than what Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones got in their respective last movies, so it all works out, I guess.
I guess so.
Now, we've talked about this movie before when we had my sister Bella on, but even though I'd like to think we are going to be going into different aspects of this movie, that's probably not going to be true. We're probably going to be covering the same ground. So let's streamline this a little bit, okay?
Sure.
Logan, directed by James Mangold, was, like I said, supposed to be the final Wolverine movie, or final movie with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So once again, we have Hugh Jackman in the role. And in this movie, he's older now. He's taking care of Professor Xavier, played once again by Patrick Stewart, after all the mutants died. Now, this is based on, or more inspired by, the comic book story Old Man Logan, where almost exact story happens, but there's a lot missing with this movie. Though that tends to happen when your movie studio doesn't have the rights to all of the characters that were used in the comics, such as the Hulk gang, Red Skull, Hawkeye, Kingpin, all those people. So it's a more X-Men focused story, which is fine for the purposes of this movie.
Yeah. And I like the relationship between Logan and Professor X here. Wait, what's his real name?
Charles Xavier.
Yeah, Charles Xavier. Sorry, I couldn't think for some reason.
He's called Professor X.
Yeah, so I wasn't wrong, but I just couldn't think of his real name.
In her breakthrough role, we have Daphne Keane as Laura, also known as X-23, or Logan's daughter in this movie. In the comics, X-23 is a clone of Logan, but I guess there's still a familial relationship there.
Yeah, it checks out, yeah.
Speaking of clones, Hugh Jackman also plays a clone of Logan, X-24, which is, in this movie, supposed to represent his darker, more animalistic side that he tries to suppress, but every once in a while comes out with his berserker rage.
Yeah, you could tell. This guy's more tough and scary and, big, mean, that type of guy.
Well, he's also supposed to be a younger version of Logan, back when he had his healing factor in tip-top shape, which, side note, I don't think I mentioned this in our Wolverine portion, but just like in that movie, Logan's healing factor it's not working so well. In that movie, it was because of interference from Viper. But in this case, it's a combination of a few things. One, the adamantium that's covering his skeleton has been poisoning him the past, decades. It has been in his body, as well as, just genetic tampering, given the corn products that everyone's been eating, and that is not only suppressing mutation, it's also, messing with his body.
Yeah. Plus, he's lived a hard life. Poor guy.
Yeah, by this point, he's almost 200 years old.
Yeah, that's a pretty long and hard life.
Boyd Holbrook plays Xander Pierce, the main villain, but he's more the dragon to the main villain in this movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Stephen Merchant plays Caliban, a mutant with tracking abilities who's helping Logan take care of the alien Professor Xavier, who has been struck with dementia. Dementia in the brain of an Omega level mutant like that is not a good combination.
No, definitely not. It causes some problems.
Now, the funny thing about Caliban and Stephen Merchant is this character was just used the previous year in X-Men Apocalypse, played by a different actor, though, mind you, but neither this movie's production nor that one had any idea that the other were using the same character. So it's kind of funny with the timeline.
Yeah, kind of funny.
Elizabeth Rodriguez plays Gabriella, Laura's guardian until she gets axed. Richard E. Grant plays Dr. Rice, the main big bad of this movie. He's he's pretty much responsible for the modifications to corn syrup that kills mutation. Slight correction to what I said earlier. It's not Xander Pierce, it's Donald Pierce. So it's actually Xander Rice. I got the names of the bad guys mixed up.
It's okay. I don't know their names.
So, this, like we said, we've covered this movie previously on this channel, but we were in a bit of a rush last time, so I feel like we could do a bit of a better job this time, even though I'm also trying to go a bit faster with it. But, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just don't take too long. I'm feeding a baby, so.
So, first off, you are not really too familiar with the X-Men movies. This was one of the ones that I didn't actually have to show you. You watched this previously.
Correct. It was with a, old boyfriend. So I was dragged to it, I didn't really know what was going on. I never seen any movies.
But what did you think of this?
It was all right, being unfamiliar with the lore, I guess, or the stories. I do like the relationships between the characters. I thought that was probably the biggest strength for me, at least, because as someone who went into this not knowing like anything, never seeing a Wolverine movie or X-Men movie, I think what really stood out to me was the relationship between Logan and Laura and Xavier.
Yeah, I agree. This is a more subtle and character-driven X-Men movie. It's definitely my favorite of the X-Men movies, I'd say.
Yeah. It's a very good movie. I remember when it came out, everyone was pretty raving about it quite a lot.
Yeah, fun fact, actually, this movie became the first comic book-based movie to be nominated for a screenplay Oscar at the Academy Awards that year.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, it was nominated in the Best Adapted Screenplay category and lost to Call Me By Your Name, if I'm correct.
Hey, I don't know.
Yeah. Movie with Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer.
I've never seen it.
So, okay. So, obviously, I really love this movie. Like I said, it's my favorite X-Men movie, and it's my favorite Marvel movie, too.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, okay. It's not my favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah, you're more of a Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy kind of girl.
That's true, yeah. Or Spider-Man.
Yeah, him too.
But yeah. But it's good. I can appreciate it. I understand that it's good.
So, one thing that I don't know if I mentioned this in our last last go around talking about this movie, but the movie Shane has a pretty decent influence on this movie. For instance, there in the movie Shane, it follows this gunfighter who finds himself in a valley, which is pretty devoid of people like him. He's sort of the last of his kind. The honorable gunslingers, until a band of bad guys comes along, and he has to take care of them. And he ends the movie leaving the valley because there's not really a place for him anymore.
Interesting. I've never seen that movie, but I know it's a classic.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
And we see this, especially since at one point Charles and Laura are watching the movie in the hotel room that they're staying in, and Laura even quotes Shane's final speech at the end at when she's giving the eulogy at Logan's funeral.
Interesting. Sorry, I was.
Yeah, there's the similarities and the parallels are there. It's not too hard to go out of your way to look for them.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm sure if I would have seen it, or if I would have seen Shane, I would agree with you. But dude, I don't know. I need to watch more movies, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The scene. Speaking of the scene with them watching Shane, it involves another curious aspect of it too, namely the comics that Laura has been reading. We see that someone in this universe has been writing X-Men comics that Logan says aren't really too accurate to what happened, and we see in a deleted scene that this little black kid asked him about them too, because he wanted to know if the character Sabretooth was real, and we find out that of course, yeah, he was real. He and X-Men are brothers in this universe. And Logan basically tells him that some of it's true, but for most part it's not.
Yeah, so if there's X-Men, if there's X-Men comics in the movie, well, I guess it's pretty common knowledge that mutants exist in this world.
Yeah, yeah. On the radio after they leave Oklahoma City, someone mentioned the Westchester incident, which killed a lot of mutants previously.
Yeah, so I guess it makes sense that someone would write comics about these characters. That checks out. Yeah.
Which it's implied that it was Professor Xavier who killed all the X-Men in this universe, given his psychic spasms that he has, which unfortunately lead to people getting either injured or killed.
Yeah, very unfortunate because it doesn't. I mean, he can't control them or when they happen.
Which I feel like is. I'm not sure if this is quite a better way for the X-Men to go out in this universe as opposed to how they were killed off in Old Man Logan. In that universe, basically one night all of the supervillains in Marvel came together and realized, hey, there's like 10, 20 of us for every one hero, so why not we just team up and kill them all?
Yeah.
Pretty good plan considering they basically won. And how they took out the X-Men was... so Wolverine is at the X-Mansion one night with Jubilee. Okay, they hear some alarms going off, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of bad guys come crashing through the wall. Okay, and Wolverine being the pretty competent fighter, he's one of the best in Marvel. He's taking them out. He's killing them left and right. He's just going to town until it's him and the Daredevil villain Bullseye going at each other. And then, after he's finally killed him, we see Mysterio, the Spider-Man villain, lift the illusion to discover that Wolverine wasn't fighting bad guys. He was fighting the X-Men.
Oh, so it kind of tricked his mind into seeing things.
Yeah, that's Mysterio's whole thing, illusions.
Illusions.
He doesn't do tricks. That's something a whore does for money.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so as a result in the comic, Wolverine, he refuses to use violence or pop his claws, and this goes on for 50 years until he's living in the dominion of the Hulk family. It's basically, okay, look, this is going to take a whole lot. I'm going down this huge rabbit hole of just Old Man Logan content. But the point is, there's a Hulk gang, they're rednecks, and they kill Logan's family, his wife and their 2 kids, because he was late on rent, coming back from a job with Hawkeye to get the money for them. I just condensed it the best way I could.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyways, which leads him to going crazy and killing all of the Hulks, including the main Hulk, Bruce Banner, and stealing his little baby grandson so that he can build a new Avengers team.
All right.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense when you read it, but trust me.
Okay, I trust you.
Anyways, the inciting incident here isn't necessarily... Well, it is also the death of a family. The Munsons, a family that takes in Logan, Xavier, and Laura for the night after they help them with their horses. They get killed by Logan's clone, X-24, which adds to the guilt that Logan is feeling about living in this whole world.
Okay. I wish I could follow you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
There's a lot to go on, I guess. A lot of lore. I don't know.
And believe me, I didn't even get into the part with the Red Skull or Hydra or Kingpin taking over from Magneto and his Dominion. It's a really fun comic. I like it. It's dark, but it's fun dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay. So, the inspiration for this movie to be Hugh Jackman's last turn as Wolverine came from a surprising source. And believe me, you will not guess who it was.
I don't know.
Jerry Seinfeld.
I would never have said that. Yeah.
Basically, the amount of seasons that he did on Seinfeld inspired Jackman to do only that amount of appearances as Wolverine. Don't ask me how many it was, but it was that many.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So apparently, after the movie came out, Hugh Jackman was actually kind of regretful that this movie was advertised as his last turn as Wolverine because he wanted to do because after he watched Deadpool, he wanted to do a comedy with his character alongside Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, well, looks like that came into fruition. Is that the right term?
Yeah, that'll do. So, yeah, in that case, I'm fine with him coming back to do the role, which I'd be fine with him doing it anyways because, I mean, come on, it's Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Probably one of the best casting decisions in all of, well, not just Marvel casting, but comic book castings in general.
Yeah, castings in, just castings in general.
Yeah, it's right up there with Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, Kelsey Grammer's Beast, J.K. Simmons' J. Jonah Jameson, Christopher Reeves' Superman. Heck, Jackie Earle Haley's Rorschach. Point is, he's up there with the best of them.
Yeah, he sure is.
Okay. At one point, Mr. Sinister was supposedly teased as the villain for this movie, but that ended up not happening.
Who's that?
He's a 19th century eugenics who wants to be the perfect being, basically.
All right.
Okay. This movie was released in 2017, the 100-year anniversary of Jack Kirby, one of the big names in all of comics. Again, not just Marvel, but DC as well.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that name before.
See, even you've heard of him.
Yeah, so that's how you know it's a big name.
Now, Jack Kirby, he didn't create Wolverine, but he did co-create the X-Men with Stan Lee.
Oh, pretty cool.
And 2017 actually had 5 of his different creations come to life in movies.
Oh, yeah? What are those?
In Guardians of the Galaxy 2, there was Ego the Living Planet and Groot. In Spider-Man Homecoming, there was Iron Man. Thor Ragnarok had Thor and the Hulk. And Justice League had Steppenwolf and the New Gods.
Interesting.
Okay, so Shane was always going to be featured in the movie, as said by the parallels and the connections to it. But Xavier's lines about seeing it when he was a boy weren't actually in the original script. They were ad-libbed by Patrick Stewart because, well, he did see this movie when he was a boy.
Ah, so it came from the heart. Maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool.
Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman improvised most of the dialogue at the dinner table when they were talking about the School for the Mutants.
Yeah, at that family's house.
Yeah.
Is that what? Okay. Pretty cool.
Okay. Some things could have been different with this movie, as per usual. Millie Bobby Brown actually screen tested for the role of Laura before Daphne Keane was cast.
Is this before Stranger Things?
Yeah, because first season came out in 2017.
Oh, this movie was what?
Also 2017.
Oh. I can't keep my years in order.
They were going to bring Sabretooth back from the first Wolverine movie when he was played by Liev Schreiber. Possibly one of the brighter spots from that movie. He was going to be... he would have appeared in Oklahoma City as a wealthy casino owner, with Logan going to him for help, actually.
Oh. That would be interesting, maybe.
Now, the idea fell through during the scripting phase, possibly because Liev Schreiber's commitment to Ray Donovan at the time, but he was interested in coming back, as was Ian McKellen with coming back as Magneto.
Pretty cool. Yeah, yeah.
Hugh Jackman has said that if a crossover between the X-Men movies and the MCU had been possible at the moment, he would have held off on his retirement.
Yeah. That yeah. I could see that being very cool.
They were actually going to film the Westchester incident where Xavier lost control and killed all of the X-Men. But they cut it for a few reasons. It probably would have been better to leave the scene ambiguous. You know, what you don't see is possibly worse than what you do see. You know, James Mangold also felt that showing the X-Men's deaths would have made the movie about them rather about the connection between Logan and Charles.
Yeah. I think, this movie is definitely about their relationship, so that was probably for the best.
Also, it would have made the movie a whole lot more expensive. You got to realize this is an R-rated comic book movie at a time where where studio execs didn't really have a whole lot of faith in them. Sure, Deadpool just came out, but it was like an anomaly. The $1 billion of Joker hadn't happened yet, so studios were still pretty wary of R-rated superhero movies, especially since movies like Dread and Watchmen pretty much bombed when they came out.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
Hugh Jackman wanted Wolverine to survive the movie. Honestly, I can go either way with this. I would have been fine with him surviving, but I feel like it was the right move to kill him off because, buddy, that was some of the saddest stuff I've ever seen in movies.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even though I'm not too familiar with the series, I feel like this was a really good way to send off the character, or so we thought.
One thing that I think is funny, this isn't necessarily a complaint about the movie, but just a funny little observation. When Logan gets back to the hotel and, after he ditched his limo and got a new car, he's clearly able to spot out the bad guys just because they're in the standard bad guy attire of earpiece, black sunglasses, and all black clothing.
Yeah, they're pretty noticeable. Huh? Oh, yeah. Whenever I saw that scene, I was thinking it kind of reminded me of, like, in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures when they're like, the stand user could be anyone, and it's the only super jacked guy in the room.
The only super jacked guy who's dressed like Spencer's and Rue 21 just threw up on him.
Yeah, exactly. So, pretty easy to spot.
Not necessarily a complaint, but funny observation.
Yeah. And like you said, I think they would have blended in better if they would have just dressed up in, like, regular clothes.
Just regular clothes, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that really didn't matter too much given that Xavier would lose control, but still.
Yeah, true. Oh, well.
It did help them out, I guess.
I guess so.
Okay, so we are at the end of these Wolverine movies. We covered these movies because of Hugh Jackman's return as the character in Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, for these three movies, I'm going to guess we have the same rankings of these from worst to best.
Probably.
But just in case, you go first.
I don't even remember the title of the first one we watched.
X-Men Origins Wolverine?
Yeah. But that one was on the bottom.
Yeah, me too.
And then the one where they're in Japan.
The Wolverine.
And then Logan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's kind of astonishing how that this trilogy even got to be made when it started off so roughly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually whenever movies get a bad start, it doesn't end up very well for them.
No, not really. But hey, good on them for improving. We got pretty crap movie with with X-Men Origins. Then we got a decently fun one with the Wolverine. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it's perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine, yeah.
And then we have probably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time with Logan. So I don't know what curve we're grading on, but it's one hell of one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a upward curve for quality.
If they were grading this curve on a curve, I think everyone would be getting a C.
Sure.
I'm not a teacher. I don't know how grading curves work.
I don't know. I just trusted you.
Let's just pretend I'm right.
Okay. You're right.
God, you're cute tonight.
Oh, thank you. Don't think that was necessary for the video, but thank you.
You know what? Let's let our viewers know. I think my wife is cute.
Aw, thank you so much.
And she's holding our very cute baby.
Yes, that's true. I'm tired.
That's okay. We're not going to be including this little baby in our videos. We're not Daddy05 or any of those crappy ass family channels.
Mm-hmm. She's cute though.
She is very cute.
Oh yeah.
I may be a little biased, but I think we made the cutest baby ever made.
Going off topic. What do you have to say about that? Oh, she smiled. She smiled.
I don't know. She was kind of asleep when we were watching these movies.
Yeah, so I don't think she really got the whole,
She wasn't paying attention to the lore.
No, she really wasn't.
But then again, this isn't really a movie she should be watching. But again, she was asleep, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's cool. It's cool if you watch R-rated movies with your kids if they're asleep.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works.
Only a week old, yeah.
Yeah. So, we will catch you next time, unless you have anything more to say.
I don't think so.
All right, cool.
All right.
Well, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.